is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast taking a brief detour into PBS content. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a big-time lover of PBS.
On today's episode, we're discussing The Count of Monte Cristo, episode 6, which originally aired on PBS on Sunday, April 26th, and is currently available to stream on pbs.org and the PBS app. Speaking of things that are available for free, we put out a ton of free content over here on Girls Gone Hallmark, and we do love doing it. But if you ever want to support the podcast and throw a few dollars our way, Patreon is the way to do it. Patreon.com/Megan and Wendy. You get 4 bonus episodes every month, and those are real lifestyle in content. They're a good time, but your first week over there is totally free. If you want to check it out and see what we're doing over there, give us a listen.
I just love the but ...
Look, there are 8 episodes dropping into the Girls Gone Hallmark feed this week.
8?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Indeed.
Throw us a bone.
So, and those are all free. Now, it's going to start paring way down.
Yeah.
It's been a fire hose, probably more than people are interested in, quite frankly. But
Sure.
We're going to get back to basics soon here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk Providence and give us a synopsis?
I do. Now deeply entrenched in Paris high society, Edmond meddles in the lives of those he wishes to destroy. But the stakes change when poison is stolen from his lab and is used in a murder. Meanwhile, Edmond struggles to conceal his identity from Mercedes.
Struggles. Man doesn't even try. I really like the way you settled into that mysterious tone at the beginning of the synopsis.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
For a full list of the cast and crew of Count of Monte Cristo, you can find that in our show notes on girlsgonehallmark.com. It's linked directly in the show notes on whatever app you're listening to this episode on. Well, do you have a first impression for this episode?
I do. It didn't work how I wanted it to work. So my first impression is when this episode ended, all I could think of was that meme, screaming, crying, throwing up.
Yeah, my first impression is I'm officially freaked out now.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah.
It was such a good episode. I don't want this show to end, and it's going to end.
And yes, there will not be a season 2.
Yeah, that's such a bummer. And I'm like, okay, I really want to read the book.
Yeah.
But I know my limits.
Well, you don't need to read it right now. We're in a very busy season. The book will still be there.
Hold up. I'm going to look on Audible.
Of course it's on Audible.
I know, but I would love to know who the authors. I'm sure there's...
Who the narrator is?
That's it. That's what I meant.
Yeah, someone big.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Oh my gosh. You know, I listen to a lot of books. I want you to guess how many hours.
27.
52.
Whoa. I told you it was long.
52 hours.
That's a long book.
Wowza. Yeah, there's a bunch of versions with different narrators.
If you have listened to the audiobook and you have a favorite narrator, let us know what the good version is.
Yeah, I would love it. Okay. Do you want to talk about what we liked about this episode?
Yeah. I think my favorite thing about this episode is the dance that Mercedes and Edmond are doing around each other.
Yes.
We open on the country estate and she can't even look at him while they're having a conversation. Mm-hmm. She's standing behind Fernand and there's this little bit of Fernand's like, you left so early. We didn't even get to talk. And he's like, oh, I heard they'd be dancing. He's kind of awkward. Have you noticed that? Edmund's a little bit awkward when he tries to be funny.
Oh, no, I didn't really notice that. I enjoy his kind of snarky responses.
Sure. Yeah, me too. And Mercedes is like, it's not mandatory to dance at a ball. And then he says, well, did you? And she says, no. And Fernand's like, well, I asked you.
Fernand. I hate Fernand. Okay.
I hate all of these men. But then we close with her returning his gift of the earrings, He clocks the bruised cheek. He touches her face. He calls her Mercedes.
Oh, that's all she needed for confirmation right there. Don't you think so?
He flashes the pocket watch that she gave him. And then he walks away. They both break down. I'm curious what you think Edmond feels for Mercedes after this exchange.
Oh, yeah, he's in love with her still. Like, she is not the target of his revenge, I think.
Okay, that's interesting because Haiti comes to him in the episode and she's like, if you ruin Fernand, it's going to ruin Mercedes and Albert by association. And he's basically like, they profited from his evil doing. Like, that's the cost of doing business. My feeling when Edmond walks away is that he's heartbroken and still in love with her, but perhaps unwilling to give her another chance. To me, he's willing to confirm her suspicions. He wants her to know who he is.
Sure.
But he goes on to say in that exchange, not only does he call her Mercedes, but she says, have you ever been in love? And he says, once. And she says, what happened? And he said, I went away for a very long time and she believed I was dead. I mean, if she didn't know, she knows. But he goes on to say that I'm a different man and she's a different woman. And to me, that feels like he's closing the door. The feelings are still there, but he's not going to allow anything else.
Perhaps. Everything in me right now is restraining myself from Googling what happens at the end.
Yeah.
I kind of was like so wrapped up after that end scene. At the beginning of this review, when we first started reviewing this series, I was like, I don't care about like Mercedes and Edmond. Like, I don't care. They weren't together long enough. Like, this is not a love story. This is about revenge, right? And I'm like, I don't care. But it was this episode and that scene, I was like, oh, I care about them reuniting. They are the one true love for each other. I don't think he's going to harm her, but he might. And harm, I mean, not like physically harm, but like as a result of hurting Fernand and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. How do you feel? Do you want them to be together? Do you want her just to go away?
A happy ending. So sure. But I do not think that's the direction we're going. I think that would go against everything he's told us about himself at this point. And I think she moved on very quickly.
Okay. What was the catalyst for us watching this show?
They talked about the Count of Monte Cristo in a movie.
In that Hallmark movie, which was a love story. Do we think that the love story between Edmond and Mercedes like played in, like if it ended in tragedy, it wouldn't be referenced in this Hallmark movie, I don't think.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm dying if people are familiar with this story and they're like,
I just don't think we're going to get a happily ever after. I don't think that's the way this story ends.
I can't.
Or not in this way. I really, look, as much as I would love, my Hallmark watching heart is like, yes, she's your one true love. Find your way back to her. Forgive her because Fernand's sins are not her own.
But you don't think it's
I don't think
way.
that's what we're going to get.
Got it.
But I don't know. We have 2 episodes to go. I don't know.
God, that scene was so good.
Really good.
The 2 actors I thought were so incredible together. Yeah. So incredible together. And the entire time I'm watching the actress who plays Mercedes, her name is Anna Girardot. I'm like, who does she look like? She has a very strong face. I think she might look like, help me out here, redhead actress. She was in Molly's Game. Do you know who I'm talking about?
The only redhead actress I can think of is Julianne Moore, and that's not who she looks like.
Jessica Chastain.
Oh.
They have that.
Yeah,
the chin dimples, very similar. They just have like that strong face. She looks just like her. And finally, while I was watching this, I was like, oh, that's who she looks like. Anyway, I think she's stunning. And I just thought they were so incredible in this scene together. I got to give you your flowers, Megan.
Oh, my notes say, I knew it.
My notes say, Megan clocked it. Props to Megan for calling out in last week's episode the Eugenia and Louise. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Romance. Okay, first of all, let me just talk about this scene for a second.
Yeah.
Danglars. Okay, him and his wife are
Everyone is garbage.
trash bag humans, right? They're like, ooh, Are you thinking the same thing? I'm thinking they want to set their daughter up with this man
who's twice her age.
And only because he has money, whatever. But the scene when he like walks in on them, I was a little bit surprised for PBS. First of all, we got like this woman on woman kiss.
Yeah, but keep in mind, this wasn't a series made by PBS. It was acquired by PBS.
You're right. Okay. I still was a little bit surprised. I was...
Also, there's a same-sex romance in Downton Abbey.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Okay. I was really surprised at the reaction of the Count of Spada, where he was like, oh, don't let me interrupt. I was like,
and he just lets himself in. Like, don't stop on my account. I'm just going to watch. I know. It was kind of gross. But funny a little
gross,
bit.
But funny. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I was like, okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. But props to you for calling it out last week.
Thank you. Look, we talked about terrible people. Eloise, the wife of Villefort, is revealed to be just as terrible as her husband. Mm-hmm. I hadn't clocked that earlier. When she steals the potion, I thought, oh, she's stealing more medication for her son.
I thought so too.
And then it turns out she's murdering her stepdaughter's grandmother.
For what? Financial gain?
For the money.
Yep.
I'm like, do you guys not have any money? I don't understand this. Like, what? You're the worst. And you're just so willing to send this young, innocent woman off to prison. By all accounts, she's a lovely human. She takes care of her grandfather. She's kind to her half-brother. The worst thing she's done is fall in love with someone who doesn't meet her father's standards. Mm-hmm. And she's still willing to go through with this loveless marriage because it would mean that she would be able to stay.
Right.
And now they're going to take her to prison.
I know.
I did love Villefort at the end. Like, he doesn't believe it when he's going through her drawers.
He knows his wife did it.
So he's digging through Valentine's drawers trying to find proof.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder... I was like, is Villefort's... What's his job at this point in this series? I don't know if he's like still like a district attorney.
I think he's in that world. But the thing is, it's so... Like, Edmond didn't have to do anything in this case, and he gets the exact revenge. Like, now Villefort's daughter is being falsely imprisoned, just like Edmond was.
This is my problem with this story, though, is that Edmond, his moves are having trickle effect on people who don't deserve it.
Right.
So, Sweet Valentine does not deserve to go to prison, like Edmond didn't deserve to go to prison. But I have a hard time. I want to see Villefort suffer. Mm-hmm. He should be the one going to prison. He may be suffering because his daughter's going to prison, but
yeah, I hear you.
I hate seeing an innocent person be at the hands of
pawn.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is Villefort an idiot?
Why do you ask?
He learns that Caderousse is investigating 3 people.
Yes.
Villefort, Danglars, and Fernand. And I think if you were Danglars or Fernand hearing this information, that it was Caderousse because they knew Caderousse.
Right.
It seems like Villefort should have too. But might they flash back to, oh, he knew? Like, would they start to put the pieces together? They haven't. So. Like, Danglars is just the dumbest idiot on the block. I mean, he just plays right into Edmond's hand every time. He's anything for financial gain. He'll do anything. He's just blinded by that.
Right.
And he hasn't opened his eyes and realized sometimes things are too good to be true, man.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if Fernand or Danglars got the information about Caderousse, that they would be suspicious. They would start putting the puzzle pieces together. Maybe Villefort did not know who Caderousse was, but I would be under the assumption that they were in this small town and he was like the owner of that bar or cafe or whatever it was, that he would know who Caderousse was. He would know the name.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I thought so.
So maybe Villefort, maybe what we're just not seeing is like him processing that information yet. Maybe like at some point he's going to do something with it, or it's going to dawn on him, the connection. Oh, he invited the 3 of us to dinner. Hello.
no kidding.
Yeah, the dinner from hell where he walked you through the room where you killed a baby.
Right. And he has this like chilling conversation with you about Providence and oh my goodness.
Right. What'd you think about the scene where Valentine's grandfather, I think his name is Nortier.
I don't understand fully what happened.
I was like, who are these people? I know who the grandfather is, but he dictates this story because earlier in the episode, Edmond goes to him.
Yes.
And has a talk with him. Again, I don't know how Edmond is getting this information. How does he know? How does he know?
Well,
does he know?
We got a little bit of it. This isn't my wishes, but we got a little bit of it. Jacopo goes to Catarus, and Catarus is like, there's something going on with Franz. Like, his family is tied. There's some connection here that I think we can use. I need to do some research.
Let me pause you there. I was like, who the F is Franz in this episode? I was like, I had to Google. I was like, I don't remember him from a previous episode. How is he playing into this family? So on and so forth.
Yeah, he's been there.
Yes.
But yes, there's a lot of characters. So then we don't ever see Catarus doing any of that research because Jacopo's like, make it quick. We just have to assume that he does. Then Edmond takes this information to Nortier. What we don't see, then we see Nortier's handler, nurse, butler, I'm not sure who that man is to him, come and say, hey, he dictated this to me. Nortier doesn't speak.
Right.
So
I said the same thing. I was like, how did he dictate
the
that?
Count blackmail this other guy or pay off this other guy to get him to say that Nortier dictated this story to me?
Maybe. I hadn't thought about that. See, this is where the book would explain these things a little bit more in detail. Don't you think so?
Yeah. Sometimes I think, am I the dumbest dummy on the planet for questioning these things? That's what I have to assume happened. I don't assume that Nortier suddenly regained the power of speech to tell this incredibly eloquent story.
Oh, I don't think so either.
To this man. And I find it odd that none of them question it.
Yes.
They're not like, Grandpapa does not speak.
Right. Yeah, even Valentine's like, oh, he, blinks his eyes or whatever.
Right.
So when he said, like, he dictated this to me, I was like, looking around. I was like, why is nobody questioning? And he dictated it. How?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ouija board.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. That's one of the parts of the story where I was like, I need way more context here. And I just don't think like the series can.
No, there's just not enough time.
Yeah.
And I think it might get boring too, but something I thought was really interesting. The Count is straight up scary in this episode. I find him to be terrifying.
Really?
But he's also straight up scared. One of the housemates comes to him and she's like, we're worried about you. We hear you walking around at night.
Drugs.
I'm thinking like, oh, he's up all night plotting. Then we see that scene later where Jacopo's done his rounds and he says outside secure, and the Count is just sitting at that table and like the slightest little noise makes him jump so that he pulls a gun on Haiti.
Oh my God, I don't think I even really realized any of that. Okay, go ahead.
I think he's terrified. And it was this that made me think, I understand your need for revenge, but you've got all these connections. Wouldn't it just be easier to send these men to their deaths and then you wouldn't have to worry about, not that I mean, for a man who is all in on ruining the lives of these men and not terribly concerned about working within the constraints of the law. I'm not suggesting he murders them, but yeah. I am suggesting that if this is what you were working with, it might make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, just be done with it.
Be done.
Yeah.
Sleep at night.
For real. One last thing I really liked, and then I have a feeling we can move on to wishes. When the Count of Spada comes and he's retelling the treasure story, I thought it was kind of genius how they did it, where they flash back to Edmond talking with Abby and Abby's telling the story. I just really loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And then those clips of Edmond finding the treasure.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick break and we'll come right back to talk about our wishes. What did you wish for while watching this episode?
We touched on a lot of it already, but my biggest wish for, I'm worried for Edmond. I think he's flying too close to the sun. His plan is messy.
Sure.
It's messy. And I feel me, as someone who likes to be in control, I was like, there's all these like loose threads now that are happening,
right?
And people are being affected, and like it's going to be out of his control at some point, where he's been playing chess this whole time and making all the moves ahead of everybody else, but now it's like spiraling. And I'm worried about him. I'm worried about him. And I think it goes back to what you just talked about. Just be done with it, dude. Just get rid of the 3 dudes.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what the end game is with them.
And
what's his end game?
I'm especially worried with Caderousse kind of being exposed. Not exposed, but the investigator guys like dialed in on what's happening now. That worries me. All of it it's very chaotic.
And I think Caderousse is disposable to Edmond.
Oh, I agree.
And that, I don't like that. I have a soft spot for Caderousse.
So do I. I don't think he did the worst thing ever.
No, I don't. I don't either. He was complicit, but certainly not in the way these other men were. We talked about it a little bit, but I think some of the backstory gets lost in the telling. For example, Vampa comes in the role of Count Spada. And I didn't fully remember the role of Vampa, and I don't think it's that deeply explored why he owes his allegiance to the Count. I know he saves one of his associates from a hanging, but I just think there's all these little details that happen, and they happen in the past, and it's easy to forget why this man would go to all this trouble and come here and play this part. And we don't really need to know the why to understand what's happening here. We only need to know the effect of his actions, but I like details.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this earlier. The book probably would flesh a lot more of this out in a way that isn't always interesting to watch on screen. They don't want to be like, oh, remember he did this, and this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to, this dude's here and he's going to work for me.
Right. Maybe simplify it a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there are people who are listening who are like, sometimes you just have to accept what's on the screen. And I do, but sometimes I need to know, well, how did we get here? And I still don't know how Edmond got all of that treasure down that mountain by himself.
And then did what with it?
Right.
I don't know. I mentioned this earlier. Everybody's a trash bag human. Like, why is everybody
terrible?
I know. There's not one. Okay, I'm sure there are, like Albert. I don't think Albert's a bad guy.
No.
Franz, I don't think is a bad guy. Like the Morel kids, I don't think are bad. I don't even think Mercedes is bad.
No, I don't
think Caderousse is bad. But the people who are seen as, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not higher society, but more respected in society.
They're all terrible. Yeah, for me, it's frustrating to watch. Danglars is there are so many bad people, but Danglars, I'm like, ugh. But it is nice that they continue to be terrible, because you don't go, well, they did one really terrible thing and now they've turned their life around. They're bad people. They continue to be bad people and act in ways that are kind of gross and disgusting. And so you can kind of root for their downfall.
Yes, I agree with that. But like, not one of them has a moral compass.
So when Eloise just stands there with a straight face and she was like, Valentine delivered. I offered and she insisted on doing it herself. And Valentine doesn't even say, I set the tray down and walked away.
Yeah.
You sent me away. She doesn't even defend herself.
Oh, maybe she might not even like realize that had happened. But yeah, they're all terrible people.
I don't know. But in that moment, she had that conversation the day before with Eloise, where Eloise was like, maybe you should join a convent.
Yeah.
And Valentine's like, so you could have all my money and pass it on to your son? No thanks, lady.
Yeah, I don't know why Valentine wouldn't be like, wait a minute.
Just yesterday.
Throwing a fit before they like take her out in handcuffs or whatever, you know? That doesn't make any sense to me unless like that's like some sort of reflection of the era where you wouldn't perhaps make a scene. I don't know.
I did find her docileness to be shocking.
Frustrating. I'm like, go down swinging, girl. Kind of makes me like really lose faith in humanity that all these people are so bad to the core. Yeah. Anyway, Edmond's drug use is getting worse.
Yes.
I'm still unaware of like actually what he's taking. To me, it seems like when he gets like spiraled, it's like whatever's an equivalent to like a Xanax.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, they're probably naming it in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any other wishes?
No, that's really it.
I have some questions for you.
Okie dokie.
Where do we land on Fernand? We agree that they're terrible, but I was kind of surprised when the violence against Mercedes kind of took me by surprise. Who is the worst? If you had to rank like the worst guys, 1 to 3, how would you rank them? And maybe 1 to 4, because where does Edmond fit in this?
Oh, before I would have said Fernand is the least bad, because prior to this episode, he just seemed kind of slimy and social climby, and Danglars, he and Fernand are kind of on equal footing to me in terms of like willing to do whatever it is to put themselves in the right position. But, Fernand's smacking his wife, but Danglars hates his wife too. We've never seen it, but he, in the last episode, was like, I'm going to expose your affair if you don't go with me on this one.
Right.
So I think they're kind of on equal footing. I do think Villefort is worse because I think Villefort is actively being evil and he's investigating people. And it was interesting to see that flashback to him going to see his father from episode 1. And you're like, oh, it's all coming back. Your chickens are coming home to roost. Are Villefort and Edmond on equal footing to me? Maybe. They're both pretty calculating. Edmond's better at it, but Edmond has more resources.
Yeah, you really think Edmond and Villefort are equal in there?
You think Edmond's worse?
No, I think
you think Villefort's worse?
Villefort murdered a baby.
This is true. I had forgotten about that. Yes, Villefort is worse.
I mean,
Edmond has not committed murder that we're aware of. Yeah. Only indirectly by allowing people to steal poison from his home and making them aware that it's there.
I don't want Edmond to be terrible. I want him to be justified in what he's doing.
Yeah,
but oh my God, it's a hard road to get there.
I think I want to feel that too, but objectively, part of me is like, well, for the most part, like he ended that engagement between Valentine and Franz because he's, on the side of the morale kid. To me, I'm like, that's a good thing. She shouldn't have gotten into that loveless marriage just because her dad wanted her to. He's trying to help out the people who have helped him.
Sure, but it's also because of him that she ends up going to prison.
Yes.
So,
yes.
We didn't talk about, you and I talked about this. There was some language in this episode. Yeah. Now, I watch the show via Amazon Prime.
So you have a PBS subscription via Amazon, like added on.
Correct.
Got it.
And I watch with subtitles because that's how I roll.
Same.
I was shocked at the language in this episode. So much to the fact that I texted you. I was like, oh my God, they said the F word in this episode. And your experience was that they did not.
No. So I watch it on the PBS app. I have a PBS Passport subscription. And in the subtitles, it's muted. It's not bleeped. The sound is muted. And the subtitle even says muted over the word.
Wow.
So I'm not sure I would have even known what he was saying if you hadn't told me. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
There's 2 different scenes.
2 scenes. The scene where I noticed it, I didn't notice it in the original scene because I was folding laundry. I remember the scene exactly. I was folding laundry. But the scene between the Villefort and the investigator when they talk about Caderousse.
Yeah, and Villefort gets angry.
There's something said there. And then the scene between Fernand and Mercedes about the earrings, he says the F word.
Fernand makes an accusation about the Count. And is it Jacopo that he's talking about?
No, I think it's Haiti he's referring to.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
We're not seeing much of Haiti. I kind of forget that she's there. She just every once in a while pops in.
Yeah. So it was interesting. So I am curious from listeners, like, did they pick up on either like the muted words or did you get that? Hey, look, I speak like a sailor, so I don't get it. I am unbothered by that. The scene at the end with Edmond and Mercedes, do you think Edmond wanted Mercedes to finally recognize him, or do you think he was afraid of being exposed there?
No, I think he does. You could say that him calling her Mercedes was an accident, but he goes on to reveal too much information that it could be accidental. I think he wants her to know at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that's the goal, right? I think if I was...
Yeah, that's what gives him power.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think he ultimately wants all of them to know who he is in due time.
It's good.
Well, hey, thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark as we're talking through the Count of Monte Cristo. If you love this podcast, we do really love your 5-star ratings and reviews. You can drop them directly in the app that you are listening to us in. If you're in Apple Podcasts, they let you leave a whole written review letting people know why you like us. So we'll be back next time with more reviews. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.